free then. You ready? Alright, what me have to do is take out on the phone and want to look up on Facebook. Just want to look up on Facebook. Follow me, man.
Gonna go.
Oh, no service. Who have service? Alright, so who have service? Take out on the phone, quick. Let's go back to who don't have service. Take out the phone, go on. Are you following GIS on Facebook already? Alright, so follow Global Immigration Services, look them up, quick o'clock. Follow them. And then the recruiting agency that you're going to work with in Jamaica, who know the name? Wait, somebody say. Who say?
Service.
Say it loud and proud to me. DJ Consulting Services, right? That's in one day. So let's say the truck driving thing come through, right? Which it will come through. Well, let's say you follow through to make it happen. And you're going to be talking to us. And we're going to do the processing and all of that. So I want you to go on Facebook or Instagram and look at quick o'clock. You're going to type in DJ Consulting Services and want to just follow quick o'clock. Long time. In case it's a long time. It's a long time. Long time. One with the green color. DJ Consulting Services. You know the find Facebook? Alright, it's DJ Consulting Services. Anybody find it? Who find it? Burger the shirt? Oh, no, let me see who find it. Alright, excellent. We appreciate your patience. Sometimes you know technical difficulties, but despite that, we're gonna go through, we're gonna move forward. So for those who are interested in working as a truck driver, ladies and gentlemen, we have online with us Abraham from the Ontario Truck Driving School. Give him a round of applause. Come on, that's all taking vision. Give him a round of applause. Alright, so Abraham is going to be talking to you about working as a truck driver in Canada. If you want to go to Canada, and if you want to work with GIS, you're going to have to talk to Abraham. We're going to work with Abraham. It's a process, right? And they're going to guide you, give you all the information, all the tools, all the bits to make that possible. So, Abraham, you ready for us?
I am. I have a presentation with me as well. Am I able to share my screen? If that's not possible, I can just... Yes, sir. Here we go. This is good. Thank you very much. So,
everybody here?
Set.
Too low? Too low? Yeah. All right, we're going to turn it a bit.
Okay. So it sounds like everyone can hear me. It sounds like. Okay, so.
Better? Yeah.
So my name's. Yeah, that's good. My name's Abraham. I'm from Ontario Truck Driving School, and we're one of the companies that's working with Unique here, and we're one of the major training institutions in Southern Ontario, one of the largest and the oldest, most established, in operation since 1978. And what we do is we train individuals in Canada from all over the world to earn their tractor trailer license. And in Ontario, Canada, the tractor trailer license is known as the AZ, and that license is basically a full pass for you to become a truck driver in Ontario, but also every other province within Canada, with possibly one exception. So basically, because it's a higher level license, most other regions of Canada will accept it with no issue whatsoever. Potentially all in due time, but basically you have access to all of Canada for residency, after establishing yourself in Ontario for the license, or training with us in Southern Ontario. We're in operation with 9 locations. Predominantly, most of our training supporting Toronto is through Hamilton, which is where I'm presenting from. And we are what's called a continuous intake institution. So we bring in people when they're ready for training. We don't check, we don't intake or collect documentation around residency. We don't require any of that. All we require as an individual is prepared to train and has proceeded with the payment obligations, and that is all. So we're regulated by the Government of Ontario and the Government of Canada. So you're given a certain structured form of training that meets all the regulatory requirements for transportation in the commercial sector. And so with that being said, I'm going to move on to the slides and I'm going to show you what we're looking at here. So the AZ license, once again, is for the tractor trailer, the image that you see here, the 53-foot trailer with the tractor attached to it. And variations of this exist all around the world, of course, including in Jamaica. But one of the nice things about being connected to Canada is that you're adjacent through the largest land border, one of the largest land borders in the world with another country, to the US. So having a license in Ontario means you can drive anywhere from Canada to Mexico, essentially. As long as you're not a permanent resident of the US or Mexico, in which you have to change over your license. For transport purposes, for commercial purposes, you can travel across North America with this license, especially once you're established in the country. So the program we offer here with the AZ NUM program, the AZ 200-hour program, are variations of the same core program, which is the NUM. The core program, number 1 there, is built on the ministerial requirements around training. Program number 2 is a little bit more of a broader program with more hours. We don't necessarily recommend one or the other to the students. Number 2 is a little bit more expensive, number 1 is a little bit more cost effective. They both provide reasonable training. And we'll talk shortly, you may have already brought it up, but a candidate who went through program number 1 and is already placed with an employer. A very good success story, a very smart individual, hard worker, who made his way and trained with us. So you may see mandated requirements for the training, but I assure you it's really not that much work. What it is when you come to Canada, your Jamaican license, even though it's not fully accepted for conversion to a car license, is recognized as at least having you had car experience in the country. So there's a much shorter period involved to get your G-Class car license, which is what that's called in Ontario, Canada. So you would basically get your car license after about 1 month, thereabouts, between when you provide your proof of Jamaican license and then your road test for your G-Class license would be roughly about 1 month or less, potentially not available, based on the availability of road test dates. Once you have your G-Class license, the very next day, basically, you could start training with us. You just need to get your A beginner's test done, which would require you to get your medical exam from your doctor. Now, you don't require a permanent doctor. You can go to a walk-in clinic. Even if you're not part of the Ontario Health Plan, you can still go to a walk-in clinic, pay the walk-in clinic fee for a medical exam, because it is not covered regardless of whether or not you're a resident. Once you pay that fee, which could be $100, $150, you'll have your medical exam complete. You'll take that to the drive test center. You'll get your A beginner's test completed, and then you'll be able to start training with us. So once you have your car license, you get your documentation, and you start training for your A. It sounds complicated. It's very straightforward. The rest of what you're seeing here is just more words, basically things that we walk you through that aren't a concern. The proof of education piece is a formality. It's not a concern whatsoever. And so what I would say to you is really just a matter of getting your car license, getting your medical exam done, and then getting your beginner's for your A. And then the rest of that we just work through while you're training with us. So I'm not going to read all this off because I've been through this for years and I know the ins and outs. So we'll walk you through that when you're here. But number 1 and 2 are the primary focus. Getting your car license, getting your medical exam, and then taking that exam result to get your A beginners, that road test, at the drive test center. That written test, excuse me, at the drive test center. And then the final point is when you're done your training with us, you go and take your road test. So again, this shows you the steps here. Number 1 is you're required with your car passing. They say it can take 1 to 2 months. I believe it would be just 1 month if you're on top of it. get your medical exam, which could be anywhere from a few days delayed to 2 weeks. But if you go to a walking clinic, it could be the same day, right? And it doesn't need to take up to 1 or 2 weeks. And some of these things can be done at the same time. And then the other thing is step 3, you get your A knowledge test completed. There's a practice test online. They're rather free, and they're available to everyone. And then when you go in to work with your knowledge test, you know, it's a very basic test. So the hoops are low for entry into the program in terms of what's required once you're in the country. Then step 4 is just filling out the paperwork, which takes no time at all. So steps 1 to 4, many of these things can be done at the same time. The only thing that can be done right at the same time is the knowledge test before you have your car license. So you want to get your car license first before you write your A knowledge test. And then step 5, we call that starting the training. Now many of our students will start the training, you know, steps 3 to 5 in fairly quick succession. So you might find yourself going from knowledge test to training within about 1 week or less. And then step 6, submitting your driver's abstract and your education. The education piece is not a concern. We will not collect your Jamaican education. It's not required. There's a very basic assessment. It is not a concern whatsoever. We walk students through what's required, so I would not be concerned with that. The driver's abstract is a formality because you won't have driving history in Canada. Once you get your car license, it will show an empty abstract. It's a $13 fee with a Service Ontario website. It takes 1 or 2 minutes to download, go through the process and download. And then completing your A-road test comes at the end of the program. So that's what you do when you've done everything else. And we give you our vehicle, we give you support of our instructor there, as well as guidance with the examiner. So from beginning to end, you're supported with our school. So here are the program variations. Now these hours are the regulation hours that are put down, but you'll find that we often over-deliver beyond the hours provided. And in the case of the air break, it's not even a requirement, we just add it to the program at no additional cost. So we put in the pricing to reflecting the all-in cost. In Ontario, we're not permitted to bill tax to private individuals working to obtain a license. You are considered students, you're working in good faith, you want to become successful career professionals in commercial transportation, and so the government has decided for all schools, including our own, that you are not to pay tax. So there will be no tax involved there. Program length is between 5 and 8 weeks, depending on your schedule. Typically, people that come join us from out of the country have more of an open schedule, so this tends to be closer to 5 weeks. But if life comes up and things happen, you know, we have time to flex the schedule for you. So that's something that we kind of announce in advance, just in case there are concerns about other life obligations. Now, this is the 200-hour variation of the program, and there's more hours here. But I would say to you that this program itself isn't necessarily required, because at a certain point you become proficient enough that the road test performance is going to be the same. So this program is more for individuals, I would say, who want to develop their skills along the English language inspections a little bit more. So if there's a concern there. But I find most of the Jamaican candidates that we work with over the years have fairly strong skills in English. It's really an issue for us. We find individuals from South Asia and non-English speaking partners picking expats in Jamaica. Think success with this program predominantly. Both options are available, and we provide both as open doors for student school. So what kind of jobs are available? This is a good question. So basically, you know, a Class A driver can drive anything from large to small trucks. Now, when we say vans, we have to be careful here. Commercial vans are for hauling equipment and goods. Those are empty, they're not carrying people. Basically, any vehicle that transports goods and not more than potentially 7 or 8 people is considered an A class. Basically, you can drive any vehicle in Ontario that's a commercial road vehicle that's not a bus. But the beautiful thing about the A class is that you can become a bus driver or get a C class just by writing a test. You don't need to do a road test because you have such a high level license that they know you can drive large vehicles. It's simply having the knowledge associated with the bus. So if you wanted to become an ACZ, which makes you a truck and bus driver, you would just have to write a quick test and pay a fee, and then you have your bus license once you have it. It's a beautiful situation. For most people though, especially the ones that we're speaking to today, the value will come from the AZ, so that's the focus of this conversation. You can see the AZ salary range here, which we conservatively put at between 50 and 100,000 Canadian. Now, when we say or more, we say there are jobs that pay more that are company driver jobs, but when we say that, we typically mean people who are owner-operators. But company drivers, the ones where you get your license and you start working for a company, you can make between 50 and 100,000 even in the first year. Okay, these are realistic numbers. Not every job is 100,000, and not every job is the lowest of the low at 50,000. There's variations in between. And so in Southern Ontario, where there are the most new immigrant communities in Canada, where there's the greatest population concentration, there's many jobs in transportation. They'll have many opportunities. And as someone who's come from another country that has an AZ, there are employers looking for people like yourself. Even without experience, there are employers looking to hire people like yourself. Our previous candidate who came through our school here, through Uni, can speak to that because he got his training with us, and he ended up finding a placement through one of the companies you recommended, and now he's on his way to working as a truck driver. So, you know, we ask some questions or receive some questions from students that come up every so often. Do I need previous driving experience? Not necessarily. So previous driving experience in a car, yes, and starting here will get your G class faster. But again, it's not strictly required, and ultimately speaking, you don't need to have driven a truck ever in your life. If you just have a car license, it speeds up getting your car license. Otherwise, it's not an issue. Whether or not you drive a dump truck or a tractor trailer in Jamaica, it doesn't matter. When you come here, we bring you from 0 to required level of skill sets, or required level of skill to pass the road test. Do you need a driver's license in your home country? So it appears, and I'm speaking with my colleague on this one, that might be part of the proof that might support your claim for saying you've been a driver in your home country. So the driver's abstract may be helpful there. So it says here, do you need a study permit to enroll? So basically, I will say to you that I'm going to broaden the conversation a little bit. Question number 3 is a question for you. As far as our school is concerned, we don't ask those questions. We are not required to, we are not even allowed to. We are simply open to the public and to the world. If you are here and you want to train, it is that simple, you're allowed to train. You're a human being, the associated cost has been covered, you are allowed to train. That's how we operate. And that's, in fact, we don't even have the option to operate any other way. So you have nothing to worry about there. The details of question number 3 really are just for unique, I would say. So I would not look at that too closely. What happens if you're successful in the program? We talk about many opportunities for the drivers, and it's not just Southern Ontario and Canada, it's other parts of Canada as well. There's oil and gas in Alberta, there's transport of oil and gas intermediates and state products and so forth. There's a lot of east-west travel in Canada for transport work, but the most lucrative work that eventually you'll get into is, well, there's a lot. It's a huge industry, but you can do heavy hauls, and if you establish yourself as a permanent resident a little later, where you have a work permit, you might be able to cross the border. That's a subject for you and your employer to do cross-border work, but ultimately there's so much work in commercial transportation on the tractor-trailer side that even in the ups and downs of the economy over the last 10 years, we've always had a shortage of drivers in North America. In Ontario, we've had a shortage, in Canada, we've had a shortage, and in the US, they still have a shortage. So this segment in North America has had a continuing lack of drivers, which is bad for the companies, but it is good for you as someone who wants to become a truck driver. You are desirable, you are sought after. The company would like to hire you. Now, if you come in and you say, I want to get my AZ, I want to get my truck license, but you don't have it yet, it's harder. But once you've gone through our school and you've got your license, it's a much easier conversation, because at this point you're very attractive. And they say, okay, well, let's see how we can bring you in. Which again, this is what happened with the previous student we brought out through uni. This gentleman was picked up by a company and, very little time. It really turned around fairly quickly for him. So I think that prospect is realistic for a lot of candidates that we're looking at here today. So with that being said, I'm going to open the floor to questions.
All right. Everybody stand up, breathe. Okay, follow the arm. Please cross there, right? Just stretch for me. Yeah? Let's move the conversion now. Let's move the conversion. So just stretch for me. Alright, have a seat now. Thank you. Alright, so real quickly, we're gonna just, Annie, of course, she's also qualified to speak on this truck driver piece or the process. So for those who are here and you have any interest to go to Canada, we're going to take questions, but that session is going to come up real quickly. For those who are here and they want to go to Canada, let's come and fill in the process real quickly.